Hi, I've got something you'll be interested in. Those performance upgrades we discussed after the last race. They're on the car and the data looks promising. Take a look at the details.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2017 career mode, episode number 84 today for the Russian Grand Prix for Season 5. We've got a brand new part fitted to the car, that front downforce upgrade, and as I mentioned, may not come in complete handy at Russia. It probably will come more into play next episode of the Spanish Grand Prix, but, Russia will still maybe make a difference, getting the car turned in. Definitely, I've said before, the Force India is definitely a lot less punchier than the Red Bull was on the front end. It's a lot more of a smoother car, but it does kind of feel a little bit less kind of intuitive, especially during qualifying on the hot lap. It really is a bit more sluggish than the Red Bull car was on edge on low fuel, but I guess it kind of comes in handy in the race, being nice and smooth, because that will help the tyre wear, and obviously we've already got a great bit of a tyre wear package on the car anyway. But so moving on into practice, you can see they're still working with column 1 of the engine, so we've been doing that since the start of this season, just trying to drag out as much as we can on that column. Of course, last season and a few seasons gone by, we've kind of worked with maybe trying to go intertwining with column 1 and column 2. That really didn't work. I think the best way is just to kind of drag out that first column as much as we can, and then just biting the bullet, basically. Probably next episode of the Spanish Grand Prix, obviously the 5th round of the season. We have 4 columns. We're trying to divide by 20. It kind of works out. I think, still think, probably like every other season, at some point we will take an engine penalty somewhere. Probably will be Azerbaijan, you must say, but we'll see how it goes. It depends. Back in season 3, we had a pretty good, showing in qualifying at Azerbaijan, so we decided not to do that, whereas with the Red Bull we did. So it'll work either way. I think we'll probably be very strong at Azerbaijan, hopefully, with the Mercedes engine in the back of this car. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. That's something definitely that's up for debate in my head still. So we move into Q1 then of qualifying. Overcast conditions for Saturday, and the same it looks to be for Sunday. So that's going to be interesting in terms of what the tyre temps are going to do in terms of the performance of the car and the track and every other car. As we go through Q1, then you can see we're in P4, Sergio Perez P7. We've got Valtteri Bottas and Verstappen opting to qualify on super soft tyres for Q1. But as for their counterparts, Ricciardo and Hamilton, strong performances there, but behind Vettel in the first qualifying stage. So at the moment the ball is in Ferrari's court, but we've seen a few times now, especially last episode straight away, the Red Bull cars kind of came out of nowhere with some pace, especially in the race after a poor qualifying. So we'll have to see, and I'm not going to speak too soon on that. But we get into Q2 then with a bit of a slower lap time than was in Q1. So like I just said, with the overcast conditions, I don't know, the track conditions are evolving kind of strangely, and we've got a few cars going a little bit slower compared to their previous lap time, including me. And then as we go into Q3, we are hit with a fault here, electrical system fault. So that's the first time we've had an electrical issue on the car. So it seems like, what was it, the Renault had brake issues, the Red Bull I think also had brake or fuel issues. I think that was a lot of the case. And then looks like the Force India at the moment we've got sensor and electrical issues. So it's kind of nice to see that spread over the course of 5 seasons. We've had different kind of parts of the engine or car failing on us depending on the team you're with. I don't know if that's specifically chosen by Codemasters, but kind of nice to see that that's all different. It's not kind of all the same failures all the time. So we go through Q3 then on our one and only flying lap at the moment. After that failure, obviously we have limited time to set a lap time, and it's only going to be P7, although Perez down in P9, and you can see my lap time is actually still, it's faster than our Q2 lap time, but it was actually overall slower than my Q1 lap time. The same for Sergio Perez and a few others there going slower ultimately in Q3, whereas the Ferrari cars really turned up the wick, especially also the Red Bulls, and managed to go a lot faster than us, and I think dipped into one whole second faster. So they found some extra time, whereas the rest of us, the second half of the top 10, fell a little bit backwards. So the track evolution, very interesting indeed, and we've got overcast conditions again for the race. So if it's going to be more of the same like that, then it's going to be a very interesting race in terms of what's going to happen, as we go through the stint. Is the track going to evolve, and maybe we might drop off pace compared to all the guys ahead of us that we're just trying to fight basically in general? We'll have to wait and see for that, but we're going to go to the full grid then, and then we'll check out the race strategy and what the indicator is saying for the rain.
Well then, after an exciting qualifying session yesterday, let's take a look at how the cars line up. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, and Kimi Raikkonen completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Bottas, Daniel Ricciardo, and Verstappen, a Force India, Palmer, Massa, and Kevin Magnussen, Sainz, Kvyat, Lance Stroll, and Van Dorn, Wehrlein, Ericsson, Fernando Alonso and Nico Hülkenberg. Perez and Roman Grosjean starts from the back of the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Right, so here we are to the starting grid, and a bit of a change of order behind us as my teammate and Nico Hulkenberg are sent to the back of the grid. So Sergio Perez unfortunate to have, well, what seems to be engine penalties, or maybe he blocked someone qualifying. I'm not too sure. If it is an engine penalty, that's a little bit worrying for his sake and maybe for the team overall. We'll have to look into that and see what transpires the next few races, but you can see the strategy is pretty straightforward. One stop, ultra soft to the super soft tyres. So let's just get straight into this. Overcast conditions at the moment. Doesn't look like there's going to be any rain though, so here we go then to 5 red lights to the Russian Grand Prix. Round number 4 of Season 5 kicks off and is underway as the lights go out, and it's a good start for us compared to Max Verstappen on the right-hand side. So once again, trying to overtake one Red Bull on the start as the lights have gone out, and up ahead it looks like nearly 3 wide between Sebastian Vettel, Kimi Raikkonen and Lewis Hamilton on the left-hand side, trying to go the long way around of the 2 Ferrari cars. We go down the inside of Bottas, and Ricciardo is sent out to dry on the outside of turn 2. Meanwhile, we opted for the inside line to turn 2. We've nipped it down the inside of everyone, and we're up into P3 then. So it's a Ferrari 1-2, and then myself, Lewis Hamilton, and Ricciardo and Bottas still neck and neck then into the next corner. Looks like Bottas is just about going to shove Ricciardo off onto the curbing and get that as he weaves around, and Raikkonen weaving around on the back of Vettel's gearbox. We move through to the end of lap 2 then, and you can see actually, contrary to what I literally just said a few moments ago, there was one spot of rain there I think you can maybe see, so maybe there's a few little showers coming through at the Russian Grand Prix, which will make things very interesting enough. If it's that slow, you know, literally 1 dot or 2 of rain, then that's not going to be enough to warrant intermediates, but it may make the track damp enough to kind of just throw a spanner in the works. And speaking of spanner in the works, here goes Raikkonen around the outside of Vettel, so the 2 Ferraris going to go toe to toe. Can we catch up to one of them maybe, as Vettel gets shoved off on the exit of turn 2? And so here we go, swinging through the long turn 3. Absolutely awesome corner to go flat out side by side with cars, but very, very tricky next corner. The right-hander, so easy to slam into a side pod there, like Raikkonen did in real life to Valtteri Bottas, where we've gone down the inside of Vettel. We've somehow stuck it through side by side, and we're going to give each other enough room to still make it neck and neck as we go through to the heart of Sector 2. Raikkonen, meanwhile, is using that to his advantage, waltzing away in P1. We're still side by side, but we have to give up the position, get a bit of oversteer on the next right-hander. There again, you can see just a spot of rain in the middle of your screen, so there is some rain definitely coming down. I can just maybe see a few little sprinkles on the top of the chassis of the car. It's hard to see on the Force India with the kind of light pink and the dull kind of colour at the moment with the overcast conditions, but there definitely is some sprinkles coming down, so that's going to make things very, very tricky as we go on through this Grand Prix if it continues. But we've overtaken Vettel then on the back straight with DRS open, rich mix flying of course. If the rain's not coming down enough, the FIA aren't going to disable DRS, so that's why we're able to use it still. So on lap 3 we're up into P2, and at the moment very successful opening few laps of this Grand Prix. Fantastic lap 1 and good lap 3 then, and so we're going to look on towards my teammate here, so obviously we're starting from the back of the grid, I think on the last row or maybe the second last row, so he's making his way up. He's trying to overtake one of the Williams cars down the around the outside of turn 2, and he's made that pass then. But you can see there that camera angle from my teammate Perez gave us a good shot of definitely some droplets on his car. I know I'd much rather the rain didn't come fully and we don't go to intermediates, because I think my pace is going to be pretty poor in intermediates, especially in the Force India with a distinct lack of downforce compared to the Red Bull car, where even in the Red Bull I was struggling on intermediates, you know, thinking back to Singapore especially. So as Vettel tries to make a move to the outside, we're going to have to go defensive, but the rain's coming down even harder now on our screen there, so it looks like maybe we will be getting towards intermediates. But either way, at the moment we've been re-overtaken by Vettel, and he's got that, shoved this off a little bit, couldn't manage it around the outside of that left-hander. It's very off camber anyway, no matter even trying to go side by side, let alone going side by side, just singly if you go through there. It's a tricky corner as it is, trying to get the traction down there. And as we go through the final corners then, sliding through, kind of looking like an ice, we're driving on an ice rink at the moment, so the rain is affecting things for sure, I can tell you that much. And now we move on to looking at our teammate once again making the move. So in contrast to me just battling one car, Perez is pretty much on a charge at the moment on ultra softs, overtaking all these guys who have opted for the super soft tyres at the start of this race. So he's passed the Haas then, and so we move back to our POV lap 9, and you can see now clearly the rain is coming either side of the screen, and so probably it's looking like maybe it's going to be intermediate soon enough. But we're going to close up to Sebastian Vettel as he sparks, so DRS is still available to us. So we go down the inside then, brake a little bit early because I didn't want to lock up obviously as the damn track, and anyway that corner is very easy to lock up as it is, but we go for the switchback move. Vettel's gone a little bit wide, that works out for us, narrowly miss making contact on the right, but then we get it too hot into the next corner, locked up, half spin then as we try and recover and get flustered somewhat, and we're going to keep P3 unfortunately. Vettel's going to be back up into P2, but he darts straight to the pit lane. We're going to continue on as at the moment I think it's still enough for the slick tyres. I don't think it's time for the intermediates, because there's still enough overall grip for the slick tyres, just the fact that it's a little bit slippery, especially on the entry and exit of some of these corners. And as we move on to the next lap, lap 10, we box in this lap. My engineer has said no word to me on switching onto intermediates. In fact, I think he's had a radio message to me saying we still think it's still going to be for the slick tyres, it's not damp enough. So as we come in along with Valtteri Bottas and also one of the Red Bull cars, can't quite tell which one it is, but Raikkonen is up ahead of us. He's coming out of his pit box then, and he's definitely on super softs. We're going to strap on this same set as pretty much everyone else in the top flight here, having started on the ultra soft. So looks like also the Renault team have done some work there, maybe jumped the Mercedes. No, the Renault team are actually coming in, my bad. So it's still going to be that same order, myself, Bottas, and then the Red Bull and Renault. As we come out the pit lane though, where is going to be Vettel? I think there he is. He's already gone past us, unfortunately. There he is going through your shot now. So we are going to be still behind Vettel in what would be a net P3, you would imagine, as at the moment we actually had a virtual safety car as we came into the pit lane. Not too sure what it was for, and usually I would say that would give us an advantage coming to the pit lane under the virtual safety car, but it looks like Vettel had so much pace in the bag then with having pit one lap earlier than us that he's still very much ahead of us. As we go through then the laps, lap 12, catching up to Lance Stroll. He's on the super soft tyres, so we're going to hit a lot of runners on super softs. They're still going to, well, 27 minus about 10, so lap 17 in this Grand Prix. As Vettel now sets the fast lap of this Grand Prix, so he's really getting the hammer down and he's really extending the gap ahead of us, so we need to get a move on and use Stroll as a bit of a tow, and we're going to get a slingshot effect off him as we open DRS still. That's actually quite surprising with the amount of rain that's actually coming down in those last few corners, the amount of spray on the camera that the DRS is still open, but you can see it gets a lot drier. It looks a lot drier through turn 3 here, so you can see it's kind of localized rain, which is very cool. I think it's kind of one of the few times I've seen it so far in this game. I think the last time would have been probably season 3, I would imagine, back at Austria. If you remember, we had that very awkward ending where we were all still on slicks, but the rain was coming down fast enough that it was definitely maybe time for the Inters right to the end of the race, whereas now it looks like very localized around sector 3 and 2, and then not raining in sector 1, so that means overall it's still dry enough. And even through these corners you can see there's a good amount of spray coming down, but you know, we've got enough grip still to be catching Grosjean, and it doesn't look too bad through the corners. So here we go then, rich mix, DRS open on the Haas. This should be a pretty straightforward pass. He squeezes a little bit towards the right hand side, but we get there and we're going to overtake him even before the braking zone, so we can get into the racing line and make that corner just about as we lock up a bit on the right tyre, so that will actually allow Grosjean to come back at us then. So it's had a bit of a mistake there, and that's maybe the water on track forcing me into a mistake a little bit. Get a little bit hot under the collar into that corner. We keep our composure though, we just about hang it through. On the next right-hander though, we did actually go a little bit deep and had to go a little bit slower than I wanted to, and we have to hold up Grosjean somewhat. That may allow Bottas, as it has, to nip down the inside then, so I've kind of aided Bottas then to overtake Grosjean. So you can see definitely tricky conditions, and it's a struggle, as I said, to kind of keep it through on the four-cylinder at the moment. Definitely feeling a little bit of a lack of downforce, and actually in hindsight then, you must say that front downforce upgrade has probably come in a lot more handy than I ever thought it would here at Russia. It's probably helping a lot, otherwise they may have been sliding around even more around this race. So we go down the inside then of Magnussen, and again sliding through into turn 2, but a very nice pass that one looked like, through into turn 3, and we're up into P3 once again. And as the sun comes out a little bit on the right hand side then, peeking through the clouds, Vettel nowhere to be seen. So unfortunately I think it may be a case of just trying to see this through to third place, but you can see on the bottom right of the heads-up display I was actually a little bit marginal on fuel. The yellow indicator came up, so I went down to lean mixture in sector 2, and I'll basically try and save fuel in sector 2 and then try and use rich mix when I can in sector 1 and 3. But you can see we're looking at a replay here of Daniel Ricciardo. He slowed down massively. You saw he was right up the gearbox of Lewis Hamilton and was sandwiching Hamilton with his teammate Verstappen, but he has a mechanical failure of some sort that doesn't see him out of the Grand Prix, but definitely slows him down. So maybe continuing on from the mechanical DNF he had last episode, the Bahrain Grand Prix. So very odd indeed. But we now move on to lap 21, 6 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Now Bottas is coming back at us now, so we do have to do some defensive work for our P3 and have to work for it to keep this podium. Bottas to the inside, we're going to go to the outside. He'll turn to the inside line, of course, of turn 3, but Bottas is going to do well to still keep it to the outside. And so this is a lovely camera shot of turn 3. Both of us flat out here in damp conditions. He sends it to the inside. We try and brake a little bit early to straighten out the car, which does work back out, but Bottas parks in front of us, and I thought about maybe making a little bit of a dive bomb to the inside there, but in the end thought better of it, and probably glad I did, because that would have been a very, very tricky pass to make. And in hindsight, obviously, we move now onto lap 22, and I've been patient, and I should get this pass back on him, as we're going to get DRS once again. And still, look at the amount of now blurriness on the left and right of your screen, and DRS is still open here, so that's a little bit crazy. And you know, for all the FI safety with the safety car, they're a little bit kind of feeling a little bit lucky this race this afternoon, and still allowing DRS. And so now we move on later into the race. The Renault car of Nico Hülkenberg now fancies a pass at the Mercedes car. Been holding up Bottas enough that now Hülkenberg sends it down the inside. It's close. A little bit of contact was made there into turn 2, though. It's a great pass from Hülkenberg, and he's up into P4. So the Renault clear ahead of Mercedes, and Mercedes still clearly struggling around round 4. We go defensive against Hülkenberg. You can see taking the inside line, and Hülkenberg is right up our gearbox at the moment. So we've got some more defensive work to do now on the Renault team this time. And that's going to have to be probably straight away, as Hülkenberg is looking very punchy indeed. And the opposite can be said for us as we go wide on the curbing in 4th gear, having a big slap of oversteer and having to correct that opposite lock in the middle of the corner. And so Hülkenberg now finds himself on the right-hand side. DRS open as we swing through the back straight towards Sector 3. He's on the inside. He's already got us, in fact, and he's already up into P3. So we have to try and re-overtake him if we can now. Try and stick as close as we can through Sector 3. This has been pretty much the place where I've been making most of my mistakes. And you can see, once again, double lock up then, all kind of out of shapes and just not got any kind of rhythm or sense of grip at the moment in this car. But we've only got a couple of laps left, 4 laps to be exact, to try and do this. But again, going wide, understeering like hell, and at the moment it just looks like we're not going to be able to catch back up to Hülkenberg, you would say, as he's waltzing away now. But we do indeed catch up. Lap 24 then, we made some good time up in Sector 1, where it was a lot more dry, of course, and the rain is kind of all in Sector 3. You can see falling down a lot harder than it ever was down that main pit straight. So this is just where we need to try and keep it as clean as we can. Not double lock up this time, little tiny lock up on the right front, but this time you can see a lot more composed through these corners, and basically we can just keep it close enough within DRS range to Hülkenberg, not now slide through an understeer through this second last corner. We can have enough straight line speed to catch back up to the Renault, and we'll be strong through turn 2 and turn 3. So here we go then, on towards lap 25. So 3 laps to go in this race. We've got a bit of fuel to use, but we've got DRS open now as we cross the line onto the left hand side. Hülkenberg not giving us too much room, but we just about squeezed through then, and we're back up into P3. We go a bit defensive to the inside then, try and cover off the line, and Hülkenberg does come back at us though through turn 2. So I've gone a little bit too cautious into turn 2, but that's all right. Through turn 3 we're going to close right back up, and this is a much drier part of the circuit. So here we go, we're going to go for it to the inside then at the end of Sector 1. Close stuff, lock up on the right tire, squeeze him out though, and we're back up into P3. And now he's Bottas's problem, and Bottas will have a go at him, and we can try and see this through to the end of the Grand Prix. So again, once again, patience wins out there for us today. And so we come through, swing through the last corner, a little bit understeer at the very end, big tank slapper for good measure, but we do come across the line for a very, very strong podium at the Russian Grand Prix. Kimi Raikkonen though wins the Grand Prix and breaks Verstappen's streak. I really thought it may have been 3 in a row with looking how strong Verstappen was in the last 2 rounds, but no, a 1-2 for Ferrari. Surprising really to say, because Red Bull have looked really, really mighty this season, and Ferrari not so much, but I guess they've swung it back. The momentum's maybe going back, and it's going to be an interesting one now going to Spain to see who will come out on top there, because, you know, that's a downforce heavy circuit, and both these cars have been pretty damn mighty in the last few races, and obviously Ferrari overall since the start of this game. So that's going to be a really interesting one for the entire kind of top flight battle. But for us to be P3, I think very, very strong. Unfortunately, Perez, although he was doing some good work, I think he got caught up with a really bad strategy and had to make an extra pit stop, I think. So he actually ended up out the points, unfortunately, which was really really a shame, because Hülkenberg, we've got to commend him. He was there fighting us for P3. Remember, he was right there with Perez at the back of the grid. So he did a bonkers race strategy to come fight for a podium position from, I think, was the last row, the second last row of the grid. So bravo to him. But yeah, the constructors, we moved down to 3rd place then. Ferrari, just with that 1-1-2, they swing all the way up to 1st place then and put me and Red Bull down 1 place. So, you know, everything can change pretty damn fast in Formula 1, and clearly with Ferrari there having the 1-2 is very powerful, obviously 25 and 18 points straight away there. But no, we move on on to the end of the episode then, and we've got enough points to think about another upgrade to this car. Now, I kind of thought about maybe a chassis upgrade, but I think really the way to go, especially after this race, clearly the front downforce actually came into handy in these damp conditions. And looking at the next few races, obviously Monaco's coming up. That's going to be important, so we're going to slap on front downforce. That's going to come in 2 weeks' time, literally as we go to Monaco. That's going to be very useful, because Monaco, it's not as strong as a track for the player this year against the AI. The AI are pretty decent around Monaco this year, and I think we're really going to need that extra front downforce that's going to come with that upgrade. So that's what we purchased then in the end. But guys, if you have enjoyed that episode, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.